Program on the Fan. This hour of our program should be a very interesting one because we have a good guest who is going to share an awful lot with us in discussion. He has quite a presentation to bring to the table. Interesting background as well. His name is Brian Gordon. Brian is the founder of SoberTube. Now, some of you are saying, SoberTube? What's SoberTube? Well, you're going to find out. Get ready. Brian has a lot of energy he's bringing to the table as well. First of all, good morning. Welcome to our program on the Fan, Brian.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you join us. I guess let's do a little bit of your background because you are somebody who is in recovery. I believe you have over 8 years of sobriety at this point?
Yes. I'm coming up on 9 years, April 4th.
Well, and early congratulations on that. What was your journey like?
I grew up the son of an alcoholic. He used to bring me to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings all the time. He would drive me there while he was still drinking, and my father never found the recovery that I did. I picked up pot by the age of 15, got kicked out of high school by the age of 16, and by 27 I was homeless, addicted to heroin, and smoking crack and shooting heroin with people I shouldn't be hanging out with.
And chronologically, when was this? What time period are we talking about?
I'm 36, so this was the early 2000s. Things got really bad by 2005, 2006.
So what turned it around?
I got to a point where, and that's a good question, what turned it around? Everybody always wants to know, what's my bottom? My bottom was homeless, and my bottom was my family did one thing right. They didn't do a lot right when it came to handling me, but the one thing that they did right was they said, we've had enough, and we're going to protect ourselves from you. We don't want you in the house. We don't want you at the holidays. You're not allowed to be around your nieces and nephews. We don't want you stealing from us anymore. We don't want you around. You're homeless. Do you want to be dropped off on the corner, or do you want to be dropped off at a rehab? And that was my bottom.
So when you were told that, how do you react? How do you respond?
So it was a little bit cold out when I decided to get sober. I wasn't fit for homeless. I went to jail once or twice, and that wasn't working for me either. I didn't have any more people to borrow money from or anything left to do. I went to a rehab with a bad attitude, and I said, well, this isn't going to work, but at least I could sit here for 28 days and get free food. And I realized in there after a few days that I am no longer going to successfully be able to use drugs and alcohol. And I was kind of bummed out because, listen, I actually like getting high. It's fun. If I could do it successfully, I would. I've just come to realize that it is impossible for me to do it successfully without being a homeless person.
Mm. So this rehab that you went to did not work. Then what?
So I went to a few detoxes, a few rehabs, and finally after I got to my last rehab, I said, wow, this isn't going to work. I got to have to listen to somebody. And every single night at 8 o'clock, after sitting with counselors all day and sitting in these weird groups all day and telling people how I felt right now, I would sit in these 12-step meetings at 8 o'clock, and I would hear a guy come in, and I'd be like, wow, that guy's actually just like me. He's actually a heroin addict and a junkie that has time away from the drug and actually seems happy. I wasn't just looking to not get high. I was looking to not have the urge to get high. And the one thing that helped me was addicts that had recovered were able to help me more than a counselor, more than a TV show, more than a movie, more than a group, more than a psychologist, more than medicine, more than a psychiatrist. I found that the old-fashioned one addict helping another was really what could help me.
So if that's the case, and one of the videos that I was watching in preparation for our discussion today, there was a line in there that grabbed me because that's what it's supposed to do. When you say that these were your words, you're here to get recovery out of the church basement and onto YouTube, I thought that was really powerful.
Yes, and that's why I created this YouTube series. You know, you can go on TV and watch a show where you can watch somebody get high for an hour, and at the end they say, Bobby's got 20 days clean. I want to know how Bobby got clean. There's really good information in these anonymous programs, but we're not supposed to talk about it. It's anonymous. It's in a church basement. It's in the back of some room that nobody knows about. The best recovery that I've seen has been around since the 1930s, and you could find it in the 12-step fellowship. The problem is that it's hard to even find that room. It's hard to find that information. But the one thing that we're doing every single day, the millennials and every single person with a cell phone in their hand, is we're playing with our cell phones. Imagine somebody can go on the internet at 3 o'clock in the morning before they shoot heroin or before they smoke crack, and they can actually find an addict that's recovered from smoking crack and shooting heroin. Imagine you can give that person hope. I mean, how is this information not on the internet? You can go on the internet and learn how to do anything. You can change a tire. You can do anything. Why can't you learn how to get sober on the internet? It's insane to me, and someone's got to do it. I'm breaking a bunch of traditions of the 12 steps by doing it, but you know what? I'm not burying another friend. I don't care if I'm breaking a tradition. This information needs to get out there. It's getting worse. It's not getting better.
Let me ask you a question, because as you say that, and when I first heard about SoberTube, this thought came to my mind, so I pose it to you. Why didn't somebody do this before?
I have no idea. I searched the internet for somebody. I said, why isn't this happening? You'll find a couple speeches on TED Talk which will keep you updated and teach you a little bit about recovery, but not consistent. And that's the one thing even I can do better. There needs to be consistent information, because just like an addict wants to smoke crack all day or drink alcohol all day, there should be tons of information for them to watch. I try and answer every single question. People write to me from all over the world asking me questions, and I want to answer all of them. This is a big thing. It's an epidemic. It's growing, and people need to get help. So the best place for it to be, of course, would be the internet, the place that we spend the entire day.
Okay, so for folks who are listening to this discussion, they may be intrigued. There are people who are listening to this discussion also who can benefit by watching this. How do they find it?
Very simply. All you have to do is go onto the internet and search youtube.com/SoberTube, or you can just go onto Google and search SoberTube, and there's over 50 videos there about real recovery, not from a counselor, not from a professional, from an addict who has sat in rooms and sat in H&I meetings, meeting addicts, talking to addicts on a regular basis, and learning how to recover from this insane disease of addiction that affects every single person. There's not a person that you can say, do you know somebody suffering from the disease of addiction or alcoholism, that will ever say no. Everybody has one person in their family.
So how many people, in terms of addicts, do you think have been actually helped with SoberTube?
Well, the numbers tell me that close to 250,000 people have watched SoberTube episodes. I wish I could claim that I've helped that many people. If I've claimed one or helped one kid not die, that's enough for me. But I've gotten thousands of emails from all over the world. As you know, last night I got a message from another part of the planet that said, dude, thank you so much. Like, you made me laugh today, and I haven't laughed in a really long time. And maybe just laughing is the beginning of this person's journey into recovery.
When we talk about addiction, why is it that addiction seems to be, some will say, exploding in terms of its scope in this country?
Well, that's a scary question. It's becoming more readily available. I think a lot of people are starting with OxyContin. I think pills have flooded the streets, and we got doctors that are ready to give you pills whenever you go in there. I mean, one of my biggest addictions was Xanax. I went into my doctor and told him I couldn't sleep at night, and he gave me a drug that once I ran out of his, I went and bought it from the street from drug dealers every day. I was given pot at a young age. For me, pot was a gateway drug. It's not for everybody, but for me it was. These things are so readily available. Anybody can go into their cabinet and find a Vicodin from the dentist, a Percocet from some accident they had. Drugs are too accessible these days.
And what do you say, because I'm sure the question comes up, when you get a question from a teenager who is trying drinking or experimenting with drugs, what do you say to them?
I think information is the key. I mean, I think if you tell somebody that they eat too much pizza, they're eventually going to become overweight. I think that's important information. I think if you tell a teenager that, you might be smoking pot on the weekend or you might be drinking a little bit, But for a guy like Brian, that ended in homelessness. That there are such things as gateway drugs. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to happen, but if you have that allergy, you don't know how this thing is going to multiply. I think information is key. I think people have to learn how to play the tape through. I think people have to see what happens to the guy who started off drinking and, like my father, died because of his alcoholism because he could never stop. I think information is key. Some people have this thing and some people don't. You know, my girlfriend can have a drink and she can go to work the next day. If I have a drink, I'm not coming home for 2 weeks.
That's a very powerful statement when you stop and think about it. What was your father like as a person?
My father was, as the AA people would call, restless, irritable, and discontent. He went to meetings, but he didn't participate. They had these things called the 12 steps that we all resist, and unfortunately they work. My dad was angry every single day that he didn't have a drink. And when he had a drink, he was kind of happy, but he was completely drunk. And he couldn't drink without driving. He couldn't drink without driving with me in the car. He was never a good dad. He was miserable on a daily basis, and he never found the recovery that I did. And I promised myself as a kid I would never be like this man. And for a really long period, I was a mirror image of my father. And he just never found the recovery that I did.
I got to ask you a question because I'm listening to you. I'm thinking some of the people who are listening to our discussion today, and we've really just started in this discussion with Brian Gordon, who's the founder of SoberTube. At this point in your life, would you say you're happy?
Yeah, I am 100% happy. I don't miss drinking and drugging. That's some more information that I think people need to know. If you could find real recovery, you don't miss it. It's not about getting really strong and learning how to fight the urge. It's not about avoiding people, places, and things permanently. It's about healing your past, righting the wrongs, and removing that addicted person and that pain-filled person and really getting to live two lives and becoming a new person. So today, I'm 100% happy. I don't live a perfect life, but when things go wrong, I have tools in my toolbox that teach me to live a sober life.
And what do you say to, and there's a lot of people who are listening to this show who attend meetings on a daily basis or perhaps a weekly basis, because we've had a lot of discussions over the years and have had listeners who've called in and talked about that. What do you say to people who are in 12-step programs and they say it works for them?
I think the most important thing to do is, I know they tell us to keep this anonymous, but what do we gain by keeping it anonymous? I think that an important thing, if you're in a meeting, is to come out and make sure that you tell people in life, hey, listen, I'm a person in recovery. Life is so much better on the other side. I mean, it's spreading positivity. It's telling people that this thing works. You know, I'd rather get somebody halfway into their addiction than get them at their bottom. You know, we don't get to save everybody, and a lot of people are dying. And I think that the stigma about addiction is sad. I think it's a disease. I think, you know, any other disease we could talk about freely and openly. I think that if you're suffering from the disease of addiction, you find recovery. The most important thing is step 12 is we can't keep what we have if we're not helping people. We need to really break the silence and help people recover by exposing it.
Well, we're having an interesting discussion today. What we'll do is try to involve some of the folks listening to us as well. You can join us, 877-337-6666.
Radio.com. Radio.com.
It's Sunday morning on The Fan. Good morning, everybody. This is Bob Salter. Rick Wolf is along with the Sports Edge program after our 8 o'clock update. And along after our 9 o'clock update, that gentleman who's been coaching me all week, literally, about how to get on base and move along. Ed Randall, he'll be by. He'll be talking baseball after our 9 o'clock update on The Fan this morning. We are in a discussion with Brian Gordon. Brian is the founder of SoberTube, and we're talking with him about this topic and talking about addiction. What I said we'll do also is try to work in some thoughts from some of the folks who are listening to us today. 877-337-6666 is our number here at The Fan. And I'll tell you what, let's start on the phones, Brian. I have a feeling this is going to be a busy hour in this regard. Let's see. We'll go first to John in Brooklyn. John, good morning. Welcome to the Fan.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Well, thank you. And yourself?
You was talking about having a bottom. When you say bottom, did you go right down or alcohol or drugs?
So mine was drugs, and that's a great question. I think that a lot of us question that. We say, oh, mine was heroin, mine was crack, my dad's was alcohol. I don't think it really matters so much what your drug of choice is. It's just where has it brought you? Do you use for fun or are you using out of necessity? Do people in your life think that you have a problem?
Well, when I went in, and as I said, you have to want the program and want to stop doing what you're doing for yourself. You can't do it for somebody else because nobody can help you besides going to like a counselor and you tell them your story and you take in what you're supposed to take in and leave what you're not supposed to take. And you're not supposed to compare yourself with somebody else.
Correct. You're not supposed to compare. You're supposed to identify, and that's right. And they say, yes, it's a selfish program, and you got to do it for yourself. And when they told me that, I said, well, that's easy because I'm very selfish. I'm a very selfish addict. So you want me to do this for myself? I'll do it.
Okay. Just thought I would call you and let you know about that. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for your call this morning, John. Let's go next at 877-337-6666. That's our number. We go to Ron in Jersey. Ron, good morning. Welcome to the Fan. Ron? Oh, Ron. Calling Ron one more time. Ron, are you there? Oh, I guess not. Okay. Well, you know what? Let me put him on hold and see if perhaps you guys can pick up and see if he's there. Let's see. We go next to Peter in Fairfield. Peter, good morning. Welcome to the Fan.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on the show. I just wanted to say that I think it's cool being an addict, that you guys are talking about it, especially on this station. It's usually all sports all the time. But, yeah, I really just wanted to thank you for doing this program, and I can't wait to listen some more.
Thank you. Thank you for your call this morning.
Peter, much.
It's very interesting. Obviously, connect with a lot of people listening to our discussion today. And one of the questions that often comes up in discussions like this, people will ask, what should they do if they know or perhaps they think somebody is suffering from addiction? What do you advise?
That's a great question, and I'm faced with it on a regular basis. And the mistake that I see a lot of families do is that the family decides that they are now the counselor, that they are going to, they're either going to enable them, I'm going to pay for their car, I don't want to upset them too much, I'm going to take care of their legal troubles, which doesn't work, or they immediately just throw them out and get rid of them. The most important thing that a family member, a loved one can do is take themselves out of the equation and seek professional help. Go find a drug counselor or a rehab and most of us addicts need time away from the family and away from the drug. I think it's important to formulate a plan with professionals to kickstart the recovery mode.
Some people will ask, are there things that you point to as warning signs?
Absolutely. It's the typical warning signs that we could see on a TV show like Intervention. It's things are missing. It's that person's sleeping too much. It's they're completely cut off from reality, or they're cut off from family, or they can't wake up. Someone's wallet's missing, the debit card's missing, their jar full of change is missing. And you could tell they're the oddball in the room. You could tell that they're no longer having fun. I have an addict that's close to me right now, and I could see this kid suffering in front of me, and I just want to help them so bad, and it's there. If you think it's happening, it probably is. You're better safe than sorry. It can't hurt to find out if it is. If you do a little investigation, if you look around, you'll find the pill bottle or the straw or the empty cans. We're not good at hiding our addiction, us addicts. I think it's important to be very vigilant. It's a deadly disease. People die every day.
And what about as you mentioned it before, this often comes up in discussion, those evidences of theft taking place, very often in the home.
Yes, things disappear. I used to borrow change endlessly. I remember at one point my sister said, there's no change left in this entire house. How is that possible? Debit cards get stolen, cash gets swiped, things get pawned. You could walk into my sister's house at any time and notice that the TV's missing, and that's at the pawn shop, and I got $40 for it. My nephew's piggy bank could disappear. And how does that affect them? That's how my disease can indirectly affect other people. That's how the family suffers from my disease.
And then when we get to that word recovery, and talk about recovery, you talk about recovery being possible for anyone. One of the questions that I think is one we should explore when talking about recovery is, where in recovery does, I guess, for lack of a better term, self-respect step back into play?
Self-respect. So when you're doing the 12 steps, you get to a point where you have to right all the wrongs and you have to apologize. Not just say, hey, listen, I'm sorry that I did this. You actually get to a point where you say, hey, listen, I got a disease. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to take all those things. How can I make this right? Most people say, I'm just glad you're alive. And some people say, I don't know if you could ever fix this. And some people say, I need you to pay me back. This amazing thing happens, though. Most of the people that when you're trying to do this step and help right the wrongs, they'll say, dude, I'm just so happy you're alive. You don't have to pay me back. Just keep doing what you're doing. You look better. You gained weight. You look healthy. You're shaving now. You're dressing normal. You start to have self-confidence. You start to have self-respect. You start to feel like, I can do this. The steps were made perfectly in the 1930s, and they're able to create a new person inside of you and to shed that layer of addiction, pain, and struggle and get rid of it. And you get to live two lives. It changes you. The steps really will make you a new person, and you will respect yourself and love yourself for the first time ever. That's a thing that I struggled with my entire life, and today I can say, I'm happy and okay with who I am.
And in your case with recovery, how long a period of time did it take for you to reach a point where you could say you had at least started the process of recovery?
So I got out of a rehab. I spent a couple weeks in meetings, just bopping around, hanging out, socializing with people, and realizing this wasn't enough. It's not enough for me just to hang out in these meetings. This isn't a playground. I got to do some serious work. And I kept bumping into this guy who actually sponsored me, and he'd always say, you doing the 12 steps? You got a sponsor yet? And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, well, this program will not work for you, and you will not get sober if you do not do this work. And I was really upset with this guy. I'm like, who is this guy to say this to me? So I told the guy, I want you to temporarily sponsor me, and I'll give this a shot. So me and him worked together for 6 months, and after 6 months, I completed my steps. And I said, all right, thank you. I graduated. I'm done. He said, you're not even close to done. He said, I want you to spend the rest of your life helping other addicts the way I helped you. And it took me about 6 months after my last drug use to get out of a mode where I was struggling and wanting to use. I have not had an urge since then. It's been about 8.5 years before I had the urge to use a drug. And I spent every single day since then helping other addicts recover. And that's how we stay sober. We help other addicts get sober.
Interesting statements coming our way from Brian Gordon. He's our guest this hour of our program on The Fan. He's the founder of SoberTube, which is a series of videos on YouTube. And yes, they are free. There's a lot of information in those videos. You mentioned it's about 50 videos?
Yep, there's about 50 videos. There's interviews with other addicts that have recovered, school teachers, professionals, guys like me, street guys. There is every question that you have. What are the 12 steps? What are 90 and 90? What is a sponsor? What do I do when I first get sober? And there's also me traveling around the world as a guy in sobriety. I never traveled as an addict unless it was to jail or to rehab. And when I was, on a pyramid a couple months ago with my girlfriend, I said, wow, how did a guy like me get here? You know, this is a gift of sobriety, being able to see the entire world. And I vlog my travels around the world as well on my sober channel, SoberTube.
Let's go back to the phone. 877-337-6666 is our number here at the Fan. We go to Glenn in Pompano Beach, Florida. Glenn, good morning. Welcome to the Fan.
Good morning. Thank you so much, and congratulations, sir, on your 8 years clean and sober.
Thank you, Glenn.
I've been in recovery for 34 years, and I still attend meetings. And I just wanted to say about the anonymity that you were talking about before.
Yep.
We have to get this message out there. There's no doubt about it. I've never listened to your YouTube channel, but as far as anonymity goes, I could say I go there. I can't say that another person goes there.
Correct.
So as far as getting the message out, we've got to save lives. We've got to give this thing away, and we've got to get this message out there. So I just wanted to clear that up, the anonymity part of the program. So
yeah. Yes, and I agree with you. Anonymity is so important. I never expose other people. I just expose myself on a daily basis. For me, it's easy for me to say, hey, listen, I'm a guy in recovery. And people go, wow, really? You were an addict?
Exactly. Yeah. That people say the same thing about me. I'm not the same person I used to be.
That's great. And thank you so much, man. That's step 12. I think step 12 is sometimes giving up our anonymity and giving somebody else hope.
I do it all the time, and people look at me. I'm proud of myself, and people look at me with respect, and they're proud for me as well. You know, there's no longer that stigma anymore.
Yeah, and there's so much magic in the rooms that it's almost like, how can I not tell everybody how good this recovery thing is?
It's unbelievable, and my life is so wonderful today. It's great. I'm a grandfather, no longer a slave. I can go and do anything I want today. It's amazing. A great life.
Congratulations.
Great life. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bob. Have a great day, fellas.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Also, not bad that he's in Pompano Beach, Florida. As well.
He's lucky.
Well, yes. Brian Gordon is talking with us on our program on The Fan. He's the founder of SoberTube, which is a series of videos on YouTube. And he's talking with us about, he's talked about his experience with addiction and recovery, and shared an awful lot in discussion. What I've said as well is we'll try to work in some thoughts from some of the folks listening to us. You want to join us in our discussion. 877-337-6666 is our number here at The Fan. You said earlier that the stigma about addiction is sad, and I thought that was a very true statement that I would imagine connected with an awful lot of people who are listening to us today.
Yes, there is. So I watch this TV show on a regular basis, and it's all about an addict using and an addict destroying somebody's life and destroying their family's life. And you can watch them using, and you see what a bad person they are. But then at the end they say, oh, John's got 20 days clean. I want to know how John got 20 days clean. Mm-hmm. We see in all the movies what addiction does to us. We see all the negative parts. And it almost exploits the addicts, because why can't we show something about recovery? Why not make a show that's 30 minutes of us using and then another 30 minutes of us recovering? All we do is see the negative about addiction, but we never see the positive about recovery. And that's my mission in life, is to show people that it's okay to be a guy with 6 months clean. In fact, you're a hero for having 6 months clean. And a guy with 6 months can help a guy with 6 minutes.
Brian, we're going to take a pause in our discussion, come back, talk more with you. Ed Randall follows our 9 o'clock update on The Fan this morning, Sports Edge after our 8 o'clock update.
Radio.com. Radio.com.
It's Sunday morning on The Fan. Ed Randall will be talking baseball after our 9 o'clock update. And it's the Sports Edge with Rick Wolf along after our 8 o'clock update on The Fan this and every Sunday morning. I'm Bob Salter. We're in a discussion with Brian Gordon. Brian is the founder of SoberTube. And what I said we'd do is try to work in thoughts from some of the folks listening to us as well. 877-337-6666 is our number here at The Fan. Next up, we go to Sean, who's been holding for a long time on Long Island. Sean, good morning. Welcome to The Fan.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Well, thank you.
Hey, Sean.
Thanks for holding on so long.
Nah, no worries, man. So, Yesterday was my one miracle year date.
Wow.
And, man, I got to tell you, the most amazing part of this is being able to wake up every morning. First of all, knowing I'm not hiding anything from my wife, and I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want. I can get up, and I don't have to worry about thinking about what I have to go get, what kind of money I have to get. My story is different. You know, I was able to hold things together, so-called, with my job and all this. And I would always say, you know, the meetings aren't for me. I have a great job. I'm in the medical industry, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And until I met a guy, and I said, you know, I haven't hit a rock bottom. And at that point, my wife had kicked me out. My mother and father and the rest of my family weren't talking to me. And he says, wait, so your wife not talking to you and your family disowning you, that's not a rock bottom? I said, I find that pretty funny. So for years, I would have abstinence here and there, a couple of months here and there. But until I got into that work and took the suggestions, my life has become more amazing than you can imagine. I've become a biomedical engineer in 1 year. I've just developed, you know, my problem wasn't drugs. My problem was me being insecure and worrying about what everybody else thought of me, right? And until I fixed me, I couldn't fix the drug problem. And once I fixed me and looked in the mirror, I'm telling you, if you're struggling out there, give it a shot, man. I'm telling you, I have a couple sponsees now. It helps me stay clean, and my enthusiasm towards this thing is it's almost like I'm floating on a cloud every day that I get to wake up. And every morning I wake up and I just say, thank you for letting me wake up. Thank you for helping me be free. I get on my knees, and it's just, I cannot tell you how my life has changed. And it took a year. It took one simple year. And guys like you who have your your YouTube page, man, I watch all the time. It just keeps me going, and, you know, I'm with my son right now. We're going to a reptile show. A year ago, I wouldn't have been able to get out of bed to even say hello to him when he woke up because I would sleep till 2 in the afternoon on a weekend.
It's amazing, Sean. Congratulations to you and your family, and you're a true example of this program works, and your son never has to see that version of you that you used to be. And you're right, it's not about the drugs. It's about who we are, and we use the drugs as our solution, and today we have a different solution. You know, we don't use drugs and alcohol, you know, and we're grateful for the lives that we have, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, and you know, it's just, in my mind every day, it drives me crazy that there's so many people out there that if we just got them in the room, we got them in our hands, and we explained to them, and we could just, you know, grasp them, and that's the only thing in my mind every day that almost makes me tear up, that there's something there that people don't know about. And there's no help from, you know, our government. It's the war on drugs. We need to treat and not put people behind bars. I mean, it's just, it's such a messed up system, and it literally makes me tear up, and it's the only thing that troubles me these days. It's thinking about other people and just trying to help people, and it's sad what we have going on because there's so much out there. They just don't know about it. I talked to a kid the other day that is begging for help and just can't get into a rehab. There's nowhere for him to go. So he has no choice to use because he can't find help, and he needs the help. And it's just, you know, I gave him a couple phone numbers of some of the guys that are real popular out there and have the morning shows and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, I try to bring him to meetings, and he needs more than that. But it's just, you know, it's so tough.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you guys want to pass my phone number on to him, I actually spend every day of my life getting people into rehabs, whether they have or they don't have insurance. I can get them into a place. And
yeah,
I agree.
I have your number and stuff from your channel, and I might do that today. But, you know, thanks for what you do, man. You keep guys like me sober, and all I can do is give it to other people, and that's what I try to do every day.
Sean? That's it, brother. One addict helps another. Amen.
That's right. That's right. So you guys have a wonderful day.
Sean, thank you very much for your call this morning and also your patience on the phone. Next up, we go to Tony in Orlando. Tony, good morning. Welcome to the Fan.
Hi, good morning to you both.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you taking my phone call. Hello?
Yes, you were listening to. Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Great program. And this coming May, I will have actually 32 years of recovery. Wow. And it's funny because when it becomes this habitual, sometimes I have to pinch myself and remind myself what it was like, 32, 33 years ago. And let me commend you, Brian, on what you're doing. We do live in a new world of social media, and even things like recovery programs have to transform. Everything has to transform to the internet world that we live in today. And I wish we had the internet back in the 1980s when I was trying to get off cocaine and alcohol. Because, at that particular time, I felt really lost. And I actually spent 30 days in a rehab. And after getting out of the rehab for about a week, I was right back on the coke. My mother sent me to one of the best psychiatrists in Manhattan for about 3 months. And I was getting high in her bathroom while she was counseling me. So it's a very, very vicious disease. And one thing I will say is don't give up. And I think that's the message that you're bringing this morning, is not to give up, regardless of whether you've put a couple of days together, a week together, a month together, whatever it is. If you go back out there and use again, never give up. Because if I would have given up after the first 20 times that I fell on my face, I wouldn't be talking today. I would have been dead a long time ago. So anything I can do, I applaud you in your effort. And thank you so much for the show, Bob. You do a great job with this program. Every Sunday morning I listen to it from the internet here in Orlando.
Thank you.
And I'll definitely send you a message out on your channel. I didn't even know it existed. So it's good to get this kind of information. But don't give up. Just that's the thing. Keep going to meetings. Keep using YouTube channels like SoberTube. Keep listening to people that have recovered. The issues that I have in my life today, sometimes I'm like, oh, my God, I have to do this and I have to do that and this challenge and that challenge. And then I reflect back on the challenges that I had in my 20s that were all related to getting high. And it's just like a totally different, set of circumstances that I have in my life today. And I'm actually blessed to even have these circumstances in my life. So that's it. This May will be actually 32 years. And I feel very blessed and grateful. And you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
And your nice words too, Tony. Next up, we go to Aaron in Rockland. Aaron, good morning. Thanks for holding on.
Hi.
Welcome to the Fan.
You're welcome, guys. Good morning, sir. And thank you, Mr. Salter, for letting me call in. And sorry, I didn't catch the guest's name. I had just happened to turn on the radio, and you guys were on. I also listened to your show a lot, Mr. Salter.
Please call me Bob, and the guest's name is Brian Gordon.
Hi, Mr. Brian Gordon. I'm actually waving to you. Hi, guys. I have autism. So okay, Bob. What I told the screener was that this past week, the 6th of February 2019, on Wednesday, I celebrated 6 years free of no marijuana. I do attend a Marijuana Anonymous group. Many people don't know that it even exists. And God willing, higher power willing, in April, I'll have 6 years of no drink. Also, I have a problem with that. So my question was that so I can get this stuff. I'm not saying cured, recovered. No. I got a grip on these two drug and alcohol things, but another fellowship I attend, Overeaters Anonymous, I can't get sober with food for one day, and my so general recovery question is I can deal with one thing, but I can't deal with another. What's going on? Thank you for letting me call in.
Yeah, I've heard of that too, and a lot of people in recovery do struggle with weight. One thing that is funny about recovery is we all seem to gain a lot of weight when we first get sober. I gained 100 pounds because I got addicted to food, and then I was lucky enough to get addicted to exercising and addicted to, finding, healthy food. So some advice I could give you besides going to Overeaters Anonymous is, once again, find a nutritionist. I learned about nutrition in recovery because I found out that I said, I'm not going to be able to lose this weight on my own, am I? I wasn't able to quit drugs and alcohol on my own, and I sure as heck wasn't able to quit eating food like a maniac on my own. And I found a nutritionist, and I learned about, the difference between eating broccoli and eating pizza for lunch. So I think it's, once again, it's seek help just like you did for addiction. You should seek help for overeating because, once again, there's a whole slew of problems that come from that. And why get sober and die from a heart attack? I think it's just as important. You got to take care of that sober body that you have.
Yeah. In my instance, malnutrition and underweight, I do have anorexia, but I'll end off things just a general. I believe everything that you're saying. Time constraints can't allow it, but all that you're talking about is wonderful. And someone from just like Tony with the 32 years, there's a guy in the fellowship, Steve, who was able to get his act together when Father Bush was in office, and last month celebrated 29 years no smoke. And then a saying is, every day is a chip day. When going to bed last night, and in this case marijuana, and you didn't smoke, and you woke up today and you vowed you're not going to smoke, you're a winner. Every person, whether you have a second, a year, a month, 30, doesn't matter. Everyone is a winner. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
You.
Great job, buddy.
Thank you very much,
right,
Aaron.
Bye.
Next up, we go to Mark in Manhattan. Mark, good morning. Thanks for holding on. Welcome to the Fan.
How you doing, guys?
Good, thank you.
Hey,
Yourself?
Mark.
Good. I just wanted to check in to say thank you for the show. Also, one of the biggest lessons, I think, for all of us when we first come in and we're confused and we're just so unsure of what's going on is that you're not alone. I think all of us in the beginning stages of our recovery feel so alone, or in our addiction to feel so alone. One of the best messages I ever heard was you've never done something that someone else hasn't done already. So just talk about it, share about your emotions, and if you take the suggestions, it will change. They're not easy, but they're simple. So I just want to say thank you, guys, and anyone that's out there who's supporting someone in recovery or who is the person in recovery themselves, you're not alone. Just ask for help. It's the gift of life. Thank you.
Mark, thank you for your call this morning.
Thanks
to everybody who called in. Brian Gordon is the founder of SoberTube, series of videos on YouTube. Brian, thank you very much for joining us, sharing the information you have, and also providing some inspiration for some folks who have at times had to deal with various forms of addiction, and also promote some talk about recovery too. Certainly continued good luck for you on your journey as you move forward.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time, guys.
We move toward our